9.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Talking politics with Phil Goff.
The leader of the Labour Party, Phil Goff, joins us this morning. Good morning, Phil.
G'day, Wammo.
Good. How are you this morning?
Oh, I'm very good. Good weekend of sport. The Warriors turned over the Storm 13-6, and that was no mean feat. But fantastic game of rugby at the Cake Tin in Wellington, which I was privileged enough to get to. The rain was coming in horizontally, but that's Wellington for you. But great result, and the mood out in the streets. I had a few beers down in Courtenay Place, and people were really celebrating. Great night.
Feeling really positive. That's good.
Yeah. Well, 2 games in a row, and the All Blacks clearly superior in both of them. You know, maybe we shouldn't get overconfident because we know that we win these things and sometimes don't win that other cup we're after. But, no, good luck for the All Blacks.
I must say apologies for bumping you before 9 o'clock this morning, but I did have a Hollywood celeb in the studio, Phil.
Well, you can't compete with a Hollywood celeb, can you?
But I was actually thinking about it after chatting to him, and I was thinking about chatting to you that you'd be a little bit familiar with the feeling of of prying cameras, prying eyes, always following you around.
Yeah, well, that's the nature of public life, and I've been in it for a while. But it's like living in a goldfish bowl. Everything that you do, you've got to assume is going to be in the public eye, and you live accordingly. And that's a choice we make for ourselves. We don't make it for our families, and sometimes they suffer the consequences of that.
I always wonder what it would feel like if people were always wanting to take your photo or have their photo taken with you.
Well, that happens quite a lot, and it used to be particularly in the Asian communities, but now, actually, because everybody's got their cell phone, it happens quite a lot, and usually it's quite good fun, but every now and again, when somebody's got their arm over your shoulder, you're thinking, I hope this guy's not a fraudster or an ex-murderer. One day that photo might show up somewhere, and some character will claim that he's a good friend of yours. You've only met him on the one occasion.
This is true. I think the
photo can be misused.
That's happened to presidents, I think, in the past.
Yeah, and it's happened here in New Zealand. I remember Mike Moore getting his picture taken with a guy who turned out to be a major fraudster, and this guy ran the picture on his web pages and things like that. And me and my mate Mike Moore, Mike had only ever met him the once, but there you go.
It's funny. I know for newer immigrants, is that actually the done thing to do is to put photos up of you and the Prime Minister in your shop. I remember seeing lots of Helen Clark with shopkeepers. Yeah.
Well, that's quite true. I mean, people come from a country like India or China. Their chance of ever meeting a minister or a cabinet minister or a leader of the opposition is almost zero. And they come to New Zealand and suddenly find that political leaders in New Zealand sort of mix with the community and meet with them on a daily basis. But it is a big deal for them. And most of the time it's pretty harmless. And I've found in public life actually most New Zealanders are pretty good. They're friendly. They're decent. They'll tell you what they think, but that's what you want them to do. Yeah,
talking about telling you what they think, they were telling John Key what they thought, protesting outside the National Party convention on the weekend regarding the labour laws. Now, they're saying this morning that good workers have nothing to fear from the sweeping labour law reforms. This according to a leading employment expert. They say, well, as long as you're a diligent hard worker, there's nothing to worry about here.
Well, I wish that were true, but we know that it's not. Just like there are bad workers, there are sometimes bad employers. And what this new proposed law does is mean that every one of us, in the first 90 days of our employment, can be sacked by our boss with no reason given. We can be sacked for the wrong reason, a bad reason. It might be that you pointed out that there was something wrong with their environmental policies or their health and safety policies. They don't have to give a reason. They just send you down the road. And your job's pretty important, it's your livelihood. And I think that, people deserve a fair go. They deserve to be given a reason if they're going to be dismissed, and they deserve the right to be able to challenge that if they think it's unfair. And that's what this law takes away the right to do.
Although looking at from the employer's point of view, well, maybe you're more likely to take on more staff if there's less risk about having to go through some elongated process to actually get rid of them if they're no good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't believe that giving employers the right to sack without good cause is actually going to create a whole lot of new jobs. An employer takes on a person because they need a person to do a particular job, and if John Key's speech was really about growth in jobs and growth in incomes, it would have been about how he was investing in a skills strategy, or how we were going to increase our savings so we were investing more, or research and development, all of those other things that do create jobs. This was really just a pretty old-fashioned National Party attack on the rights of Kiwi workers and their working conditions. That's why he chose the National Party conference as the venue for it. It wasn't here's a practical and sensible way forward. This was a dog whistle to the right wing.
A decision is due today on proposals to mine on conservation land. Where do you think the government is going to go on this? I mean, there's pretty much strong opposition all around the country against mining on conservation land. They would be crazy to go against that, surely.
Well, they would be. I mean, the big promise was made by John Key in the speech at the opening of Parliament this year that mining was going to be transformational, and all we had to do was get rid of this silly Schedule 4 protection that says you can't mine in national parks or protected areas. Two cabinet ministers took a cabinet paper to the National Party saying, look, we're going to open up half a million hectares of parkland. And then the public got whiff of this. It was leaked, as you recall. There was absolute outrage expressed, as you'd expect, and the government slunk back and came out with a new proposal that said, well, only 7,000 hectares to begin with, just unimportant places like the Coromandel or Great Barrier. And then we had 42,000 people walking down Queen Street. Look, they know where New Zealanders stand on this. We want to preserve the most beautiful and most sensitive areas of New Zealand. We don't want to turn it over to overseas-owned miners. They'll backtrack on this. They should never have gone down that path in the first place.
It was suggested this morning here on the show that potentially we should rename these areas because they're not really conservation areas anymore. Potentially, they're just bush-clad hills or something. They're not conservation areas.
Well, they're conservation areas, but not all parts of conservation areas are pristine and highly sensitive. That's why the Parliament created Schedule 4 areas that said national parks are out and these particular parts of conservation areas are out. That's quite clear-cut. We thought that all parties in Parliament agreed with that until the big, U-turn by the National Party proposing that suddenly everything was up for grabs.
Phil Goff, Leader of the Labour Party, thanks very much for your time.
Okay, thanks,
Cheers.
Wammo. Catch you next week.
That is the Leader of the Labour Party, Phil Goff, joining us this morning.